What was home like for you when you were growing up?
What was home like for me? It was absolute chaos in a very toxic environment. That was home like for me. And of course, you want to know more about that. Um, so let me say first, because I think that's important to know. I have a very good relationship with both my parents, and it took a lot of years to get there because I come from this home which most people would label like a toxic family. And there's a reason for that as well. But it's actually very interesting what people see as a toxic family and what actually is a toxic family. So I grew up in a home where my father, he is a Jehovah's Witness. He still is a Jehovah's Witness. But before I was born, he was locked up in maximum security prison in the UK because when he was younger, he got into organized crime and he was the brains and armor of the organized crime organization. So he did quite some years in really heavy situation. When he got out, he was quite traumatized. And he started working in the Netherlands and he met my mom in the Netherlands. And my mom, she is born in 1956, but she was born with 27 weeks, which was very rare in those times. And on top of that, her twin brothers died during giving birth. So when she came alive, people told my grandparents, your daughter will never be able to speak. She will never be able to hear anything. She will never be able to live a normal life. Um, you must be happy when she is alive because we don't even know if that's going to happen. So these two people came together, and my mom was raised by two amazing people who made mistakes as well, of course, but two amazing people. They were both teachers, and my mom, she's talking, she's hearing with hearing aids, but you can have a regular conversation with her. But still, she was raised in such a protective environment and like in a victim mode. And then she met my father. So this was a very toxic environment, and there was a lot going on. But what a lot of people don't see is that in a relationship like this, normally people say, well, you have this guy and he's not dealing with his emotions very well, and it takes his toll on the entire family. And there is some aggression and, uh, well, manipulation, all these kind of things. It's very easy to finger point also to the man in the family. But I grew up in this family and I saw from up close how much both parties are part of the game and how much both parties are equally responsible for the tensions within the relationship and how they are equally responsible for what happens in the relationship. As a kid, I was not fully aware of that, of course. So I grew up there. Um, I have a highly intelligent brain, just like my father has. You should have a highly intelligent brain for what he did in the past, because otherwise you cannot pull that off. Um, but that was also one of the reasons I didn't fit the school system, because the teachers, they didn't like all my questions and they didn't like how I would read already on a very young age. I taught myself how to read at the age of 3. So I got into a lot of arguments as well. And not really arguments where I was upset, but like I wanted to know things. And I knew that what they were telling me wasn't aligned with what I felt, because I'm also very sensitive and I feel and not sensitive in like, oh, I'm so sensitive. No, sensitive in like, I feel energies, I feel emotions, I feel um, whether or not the energy of the person standing in front of me is aligned with the words that are coming out of their mouth. So that was very complicated when I was younger. And this all resulted in me leaving high school at the age of 15 without a diploma as well. But I can make this an entire monologue, but I love to have more like a conversation.
The reason I asked about your childhood is because I had a colleague who grew up Jehovah Witness and has a good relationship with his mother, but also has um a lot of, I guess, they're not super crazy stories, but just like different stories of his upbringing because of his mom and dad being Jehovah Witness. And I just thought that was interesting because um, I feel like it's kind of like not in pop culture talked about Jehovah Witness. So I think it's kind of like no one knows what's going on behind the curtain. And as a child or growing up with that, did you feel because of their choice in religion that you were limited in a way, or did you just this was everyday life?
First, I want to say it's funny how you say pop culture, because did you know that Michael Jackson was also raised as a Jehovah's Witness?
I guess I didn't.
So I found out a couple of years ago. So then all puzzle pieces came together as well in his story for me. So it was very funny. But for your question,
So
I
hanging babies over railings is common in the in Jehovah Witness.
no, 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 not that I know of. But for your question, I don't know if I am the best example. Like, this is how it goes. Also, I know that in different countries, it is also different, because I met Jehovah's Witnesses from different countries, and also the culture from a country, it also gets involved. So it's not like all Jehovah's Witnesses act the same. I think also not all Christians act the same all around the world. And for me, it was normal. Like, everything was normal. And for me, it's just my life. That's why I can also talk so easily about it, because it's my life. It's part of who I am, because it all shaped me to the person who I am today. And what I think was one of the benefits of being a Jehovah Witness, but not per se being a Jehovah Witness, but being raised as a Jehovah's Witness by my father, is that my father always pushed me to look for answers myself, and to question everything myself, and to dive within everything myself. For me, that resulted very quickly already that I don't believe there is a God managing this world. I do know that the gods of the religions are in fact real, and that they are entities and egregores, and that they do have an influence on humankind, but not that they are the creators of this world. So there is a difference between the source of all being and the entities that are attached to the religions. So for me, it was a plus that I was allowed and also pushed um, to ask questions and to look things up myself. And I think I experienced that as well growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, where I was that you were allowed to ask questions as well and to speak about things as well, until a certain matter. And one of the things I first always thought was a great thing about baptism, like with Catholics, you get baptized when you are born. So you don't have any choice. You just get that mark on you. Thank you, parents. You left a mark on me. Great. But with a Jehovah's Witness, you choose whether or not you get baptized. And I think that's one of the biggest misunderstanding, because I never got baptized. So I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. I have never been a Jehovah's Witness. I was only raised by Jehovah's Witnesses. And that is a big difference, whether you are a Jehovah's Witness or if you have been raised by a Jehovah's Witness. And I was raised by a Jehovah's Witness, but I was never baptized. And because I was never baptized, I'm not expelled from joining any congress hall, a congregation hall, or anything like that. I can speak to my father. If I would want to, I could visit all these places because I'm not baptized. And so they never excluded me from, well, the group. Let me put it like that. But I will never get baptized because for me, I will never give my power away to an entity who is deceiving humankind, because that's how I experience it and what I have seen over the years. And I've read hundreds of books, and I ask so many questions and tune in with myself all the time, and it all comes back to the same thing every single time.
And when, I mean, it sort of sounds like your life experiences weren't gonna al- align with you really conform. The way I look at high school, especially in America, it's like training you to conform to the like society's rules and teaching you to do everything it sounds like you're not, in terms of like just sit there, shut up and do the thing we say. And so that probably wasn't going to work out for you no matter how much you tried. After leaving high school, what was the big plan, or did sort of just you just move on to the next thing and fall into things in terms of your professional experience and just life in general?
There was no plan. There was no plan. And I'm not a person who plans a lot, to be honest, although some people think I do. So I quit high school, and I started working in bars and restaurants, and I didn't speak to my father anymore. My mom drank a lot in those days. So I was basically living life on my own. And around the age of 17, there was a time that I didn't even live in a house. I just had my backpack with stuff, and I was going from one place to another place, and that was it. And I think around the age of 21, I was looking at someone. I was like, no, this is not going to be my future. I'm not going to stand behind a bar at 36 and still be here. I'm not going to do that. So I returned to the Netherlands at that point, and I started working in a call center for telecom. And that was super boring. But but I felt like I need to do something more structured. And within 3 months, I was invited to join a team of 5 to start like this escalation team for all the clients, all the customers who were going around in circles, calling like 5, 10, 20 times and still not be helped. And then the lawsuits came, and all the complaints. And then they were like, okay, we need this extra team to see if someone has already called 5 times, to get more attention to our customers and to see how we can solve it. And I actually liked that, because then I had time to communicate with people and to really listen to people. And it didn't matter if I was on the phone for 45 minutes or an hour with one person. There was no time limit. The only thing that mattered was that there came a solution without a third party interference, and that the customer was happy and the company was happy. So I learned a lot in the process, and I liked that process. And in that process, I met my husband on Queen's Day in Amsterdam. And what were the chances? He was working for the same company, but then in Amsterdam, and I was working in Groningen. So after a couple of months, I moved to Amsterdam, and they also wanted me to work at their headquarters. But I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, because I'm not going to work in the same company as my husband when I'm relocating, because then I will never have my own life in this city. I want to have my own life and not have everything intertwined with my husband. And then I started doing some jobs like PA and management assistant and those kind of things, because I didn't have any diploma, and I still believed that that was a very important thing to have. I didn't see my own worth. And then when I was 25, I stepped into this recruitment agency, maritime sector, offshore shipbuilding, yacht building, and I loved it. I came in as an assistant, and over the years, I grew as an expert in the field of corporate immigration. So I built my entire career on corporate immigration, and I did that for about 11 years, something like that. In that time, we also had 2 boys, so I became a mother. And as a surprise, our 3rd child came as well. Our lovely daughter came a couple of years later. And then I didn't love my job anymore. So then I quit. But that's the thing. If I don't love it, I quit. And that's the thing most people don't do. They wait until something better comes along. But there is no room for something better to actually enter your life when you're still holding on to the thing you don't love, because then it takes up all the space in your energy field. It takes up all the space in your head. And there will be no room for something better to arrive. So I don't have a plan. I just follow my heart. And, it got me pretty far in life.
I totally agree with that. I've left many, many jobs over the years. Um, I have a list of many things I have done and am not qualified to do ever again. In 2017, what happened that really changed things for you?
My employer and a friend took his own life. And that was not the biggest shift. You read that from my profile, I think, from LinkedIn. The biggest shift was, I told you at the beginning of the conversation that I have this sensitivity also for energies. And when I was younger, I always used to see entities walking around in our house. And I always felt really scared, because when you grow up as a Jehovah's Witness, entities are from Satan. It's not a good thing to see. So I didn't speak about it. And I had a couple of times with my grandmother, for instance, who came to me and shared with me, like, okay, I'm going to leave this world, while she was healthy. And the morning I woke up, my mom came and she said, grandmother just died this night. And I was like, yeah, I already knew, because she came to me to tell me. And with this friend, we had a special relationship, cats and dogs fighting, but also very good conversations together. And I knew he was troubled, but I also felt like I needed to keep my distance, and I just became a mother for the 2nd time. So I was also still running on emotions and those kind of hormones and those kind of things. And the night before he took his own life, he came to me in a dream, and he showed me he was leaving. And I was sitting in the morning and I was like, no, I'm not going to call him. I'm just going to ignore this, because I had ignored that part of my life completely. Around the age of 15, when I started drinking alcohol, I was like, oh, this is great, because then I don't see the entities anymore. Then I can shut them out. So that was one of the main reasons for me to drink alcohol, because then I wouldn't see them anymore and I wouldn't sense them anymore. But so I was like, no, I'm not going to call. I'm not going to do this again. I'm not going back to getting these crazy dreams. I'm just going to ignore it. When the night after, I had a dream and he was gone, and I woke up in panic, and I told my husband, I cannot find him anymore. And then the next morning we heard at the office that he actually took his own life. So for me, that was like the floor collapsing underneath it, because I was really sad him leaving this world, but I was terrified because I had this dream. And I knew it meant that I could no longer escape for my sensitivity of energies and entities. And that I needed to find a way to make that work in life as well. And everything in life happens for you. So doors opened from there. And I learned, even in corporate life, especially in corporate life, how many people have these same experiences one way or another, like with deja vus, with dreams, with feeling things, with knowing things. Everyone in a different way. It doesn't always need to be entities, but everyone in a different way. So one person went to a shaman, another one was having someone in their house to get rid of the ghost their child was seeing. And so it became more and more normal. But every time I sat at a lunch table, these stories would die because everyone was too afraid to speak up about this sensitivity. So from 2017, that is where my journey back to myself really started, to also embrace that part of who I am.
Um, I I feel like for me, it's not maybe things come to me when it comes to like making rash decisions. It's more my brain is so occupied by the thing that I get tired of it being there, and that's what pushes me to like be finally like I'm done. Because it's not only taking, if you really hate a job, it becomes your life, and you only focus on that, and you can't even enjoy the good times anymore because you're always thinking, okay, we'll have 6 hours until I have to go back to work, and that I have to work with that person I hate. And that the last couple of years, that's been the thing that's like pushed me out of uncomfortableness in a way. But I don't know if I've ever experienced exactly what you're talking about, so I'm very intrigued by that. What happened to you? So 2017, all of that happened, which is a lot. But what happened between you and your husband that really shifted your trajectory in terms of your family and your profession?
Well, what happened between me and my husband is that I decided I didn't want to live my life like that anymore. So this is actually something we are still in the middle with, not me and my husband per se, but more his process with his family and how they perceive me. Let me put it like that. Because I speak my truth, and people don't always like me speaking my truth. And I also share what I feel, and I also share my processes where I'm going through, and I set my boundaries. But with my husband, that was very different. He was emotionally unavailable. He was always providing for the family, always working really hard in a job he hated. He always wanted to be a handyman. The moment I met him, he wanted to be a handyman, he wanted to be a trader, and he wanted to be flipping houses. Those were the three things he wanted to do. But he went to college and he needed to walk a certain path well, to fit in. And we just became miserable in that process, especially when the kids came. And me and the kids were treated in a way I didn't enjoy. And me and my husband used to have conversations about that. And when we were at home, we had alignments in our conversations, and we had an agreement. I handle my family, you handle yours. So I kept quiet as much as I could. And that almost destroyed me, because instead of speaking my truth, instead of saying, so this is also my responsibility. This is not their fault. This is also my responsibility for not speaking my truth. And I think that's a very important thing to highlight. And what a lot of people forget. You are always responsible for what's going on in your life and how people treat you. Because if you don't speak up, you give the other permission to treat you that way. So I gave people permission to treat me in a certain way and to treat my children in a certain way. And every time we went home, we got in an argument because I expected my husband to stand up for himself and to stand up for his family. But it never happened because he shrunk into a little boy, not daring to say what he wants. And in 2021, we were also in the middle of the COVID season, let me put it like that. And we decided not to take any shots. And that didn't sit well with a lot of people. But we were like, yeah, we are young and we are healthy and we are not per se 100% against at that point. That was the feeling. Later, I changed my mind a little bit. But I'm not going to take an experimental shot at this moment. So that was my son's. And my husband, he had the same. But I needed to sit through conversations where people not taking shots, so not per se me, but people not taking shots were ridiculed. While my kids were playing there as well, knowing that we didn't get the shots and that they didn't get the shots. And I was expected to keep my mouth shut. Well, at one moment, I just couldn't do it anymore. So I told my husband, I'm not going to spend my life living like this. I'm way too young to waste the rest of my life. I was 30 something, 31 or 34, something like that. 34 at the moment. And it's like, I'm way too young. And so we're not going to do this. And his response at first was like, but I choose you. I said, I don't want you to choose me. I never want you to choose me. I want you to choose you. I don't want you to choose me because I don't want someone following me or pleasing me because that's not a real relationship. I want a real relationship where we can have conversations and where we challenge each other and where we mirror each other and where we support each other to grow. Well, then he wanted to go to relation therapy. I was like, no, we're not going to relation therapy. I also already offered you that like 3 years ago. And you said no. You said we can handle this ourselves. Well, we cannot. And for me, it's like, I'm not doing this anymore. So I'm going to focus on my process. And you are going to focus on your process. And we are going to give it, I don't know, a couple of months. I really don't know. But we have 2 beautiful boys. And I'm not going to say goodbye out of the blue. So we are going to both work on our process. And if we still love each other after that, when we return to ourselves, then we stay together. If we don't want to spend the rest of our life together, that's fine as well. But then at least we have returned to ourselves and then we can communicate with each other like the parents of our children instead of fighting with each other. And I gave him a book, The Choice of Edith Eger. And I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's a beautiful book. And I remember sitting there with him and he reading the book and he realizing that he also had traumas and that even while his family looks picture perfect on the outside, like so many families, that also he got hurt when he was little and that he was still acting a lot of the time like that little boy who got hurt instead of the grown man he had become. So he started his journey as well. And where we started in the conversation, how I grew up in this toxic family and what I said, you have different types of toxic families. And toxic family, for me, environment, and toxic sounds really bad, but what I mean is it's toxic because it hurts you is where you are not allowed to talk about your emotions, or where there's no room, or people are not capable of talking about it. And in my experience, also with a lot of my clients, it's way more difficult and way more courageous to say, I'm going to look in the mirror and I'm going to look at my traumas and I'm going to look at where I'm still hurting. When you come from a family that looks beautiful on the outside, because even if it looks beautiful, there is always something there, because it comes from 7 generations through us, all the traumas and all the pain. So it's 7 generations. There's always something happening. And I am a mother. I'm a mom of 3. And I have all this knowledge. And I know how to act and I know what to do. And still I fuck up. Still I make mistakes. Still my children get hurt. So no matter the parent and no matter the intentions of the parent, someone will get hurt along the way. And but I'm drifting off a little bit. But I'm very grateful that my husband took responsibility for his life and for his emotions and for what was going on in his inner world, because it strengthened him and we grew together, and it strengthened the relationship between him and our 2 boys. The boys, they have grown so much from that. We even welcomed our 3rd child, our daughter. We always say she is the child from our 2nd marriage. Even while it's to the same man and the same woman, we are both different people. It's a 2nd marriage, because we were willing to let everything go to return to ourselves. And I think that's the most important thing in life. And we always check in with each other like, okay, am I still me? And are you still you? And what do we need to do to get back to ourselves so we can move forward together? Or, and there's always that or split up. Because there can always be a transition where you realize we need to let go. I hope it will never happen. But there's always that possibility. So we always go from, am I connected with myself? So I come first, and for him, he comes first. He quit his corporate job. He became a carpenter. He is trading. We are talking about the future, maybe because the only thing left on the list is the 3rd one, and it's flipping houses. So much has changed, and it's so beautiful to see him go through that process, and also our children to see their father so grounded and aligned and doing his own thing. And yeah, I'm very grateful for that process in the last 5 years we've gone through together.
I mean, you said a million things there, but the one thing that you made me think of is it's amazing anyone stays in a long-term relationship because there's so many influences messing with your head, and especially family, that it's so easy to create these toxic dynamics where it's like if you're really close to your mom or your dad, then you start talking bad about your wife to them, and then it becomes this weird us against them. And so then when you go and hang out with the family, they're like giving you the evil eye because they know that thing that you don't think they know about. And they're going to pick their family over you every day. And so there's always that weird thing. I don't know if you ever watch really bad reality TV, but there's a show, 90 Day Fiance, and these people fall in love with someone, like they're in the US and they fall in love with someone from the Philippines. They're madly in love, they've never met, and they finally get them to come back to the US, and instantly things fall apart. And it's because the family and friends just pick apart everything and they let them influence what they have together. And they like you're saying, they have no backbone. They just let it take over, and they start yeah, she is kind of annoying, or she does do weird thing, and blah blah blah, and then it just instantly falls apart. And it's like every couple on this show. So it's, I mean, I think they sort of choose these couples, but it just shows how easily influenced we are by the people around us, when really, like, it's not their life. They get to step away anytime. It's your life, so you have to step up and defend the people you love a lot, and then you also have to work at it a lot, and it's never ending. And I think that's why a lot of people just end up walking away from a relationship, because they're just exhausted and they don't want to work for it.
Yes, but if you don't look at it, and if you don't look at the mirror that is presented to you, because that's all it is, it's a mirror. It is showing you where you are still hurting, and it is showing you where you still need to grow more into yourself. So if you don't pick up that mirror and look in it and take responsibility for what you see, then it will only happen again and happen again and happen again, because the world will keep mirroring back at you what you send out as a frequency. That's also why manifesting with the brain hardly never works, because we are sending out all these frequencies the entire day, and you will get it back as a mirror from the world. So you need to become aware what is living still within me that I am sending out into the world, attracting. And if you want to change the world, and now we're getting back to Michael Jackson again, you need to look at the man in the mirror. That's the only one that matters.
Hmm. um have you and your family lived abroad a lot, or you've just done a lot of traveling?
A lot of traveling. So, but traveling, it's a lifestyle, so a nomad style. And the grandmother I just told you about when I was younger, that came to me in a dream. I learned when I was around the age of 30 that she was actually a gypsy. And so apparently it's in my blood to be a nomad. And we sold everything we owned in 2024. And we have been on the road ever since. And we are now only back in the Netherlands to visit some friends and family. And we will be gone by the end of the summer again.
And since that decision, which I'm just self-reflecting here because I'm struggling with this at the moment. I keep thinking, and I've thought this for many years, that once I move to this place, then I'll find happiness. Are you doing that? Are you doing that? Or are you like completely happy in your life and you just like to change it up in terms of location?
Well, you will take yourself everywhere. So you will take that mirror with you everywhere as well. And it will
There's no
show
escaping.
there's no you can run, but you cannot hide. And so one of the things I actually never had this feeling like I want to travel the world. I I actually had this dream of building a nice place with my family and having a nice home where they would feel at home, and having a nice garden, and where we would grow our own food, and with the chickens and maybe goats and those kind of things. But I realized in the process of selling the house, because it was a process, I get a message from my heart to sell the house. And I told my husband in tears because we decided not to. And my husband looked at me and he said, I got the same message this weekend, but I was afraid to tell you because we decided not to. And within 6 weeks, we had sold the house for the price I wanted, because the universe came together and told us you have to take this journey together. So we sold everything. For about 6 months, I got text messages from my husband. When you get home, the couch will be gone. When you get home, the closet will be gone. When you be home, this will be gone. Well, so everything got empty and empty and empty. But I knew that it would not only be a journey around the world. It would be a journey within ourselves, within our soul, within our family, and to grow together. And that's truly what it was. And we visited all these spiritual places, but not the regular spiritual places, but so not the hyped things, but the things that still have the quietness and the stillness and the pureness. And so I learned a lot about that as well. I felt a lot. We first booked a ticket to Mexico with no other plan. We sold the house in June, and I think we only bought a ticket to somewhere in like September or October because we didn't even know where to go. We just sold the house. We were like, we are just doing it. And we just knew this was what we needed to do with our family. And for us, it is still the best choice we made. But that doesn't mean I would recommend it to anyone because it's not an Instagram reel. And no matter how people show it on social media, when you travel and you meet these people, you see that there also is stress, and you see there is a lot of uncertainty, and you see that everyone meets themselves. The question is, once again, do you have the courage to look in the mirror? Or do you want to put on a show on Instagram or LinkedIn or anywhere else and pretend like it's the best life you can live and have a smile? But there's a lot going on when you're traveling a lot. And there's a lot of changing plans because houses are not like you expected or advertised, or a homeowner doesn't hold up their end of the deal, or a kangaroo bone punctures your diesel tank in the middle of the outback in Australia, or just to name a thing, or your flight to Dubai gets canceled because they're just started throwing bombs. All these things happened. And then you need to center yourself, get back to yourself, not go into stress mode, but decide, okay, what is the next step to take? But for me, it's still so much better than going around in circles and doing the thing that's expected of me that I don't love, or doing the thing that provides me with safety and security, but I don't love. And the safety and security is just an illusion, because if they decide to end your job, they will, or anything. So for me, it always comes back to whenever my heart says I need to do something, I will do it. Because that's the only way to truly live. And of course, it's not like every whisper of my heart I immediately act upon, because I can be terrified as well. I can be very scared as well. My daughter, I have seen her in 2018 in a yoga class. I went back home to my husband and I told him, a little girl wants to be born. We're not doing this. I'm not going to be a girl mom. End of discussion. That was the message I told him in 2018. And in 2021, I was pregnant. And I knew it was this girl. So you get glimpses and your heart shows you things, but it's you who decides whether or not you're going to do it. But like you said, until that moment, your mind will be occupied with it, because it will be fighting it. It will be resisting it, and it will take over your life. So you will not be in the life, enjoying your life. You will actually be running around trying to escape the feeling of love your heart is sharing with you.
I also sold everything and moved to France, and I've also done this many times with just selling everything and moving to New York, moving to Australia. Um, my I guess for me, the more I think about it, I'm just never going to be satisfied completely no matter where I am in the world. That's just like the chemicals in my brains won't allow it to be full 100%, and there's always going to be that desire to go to the next thing. Um but I am jealous of people sometimes that are happy to stay in their hometown and work the same job for 25 years and have the barbecue and hang out with the same family every weekend. I'm jealous, but then sometimes I get a glimpse of it or like live it through someone else. Like they invite me to a barbecue or something, and then I see it in real life, and I'm like, oh no, this is definitely not what I want. um, so like, I guess I'm just constantly like weaving in and out of these life decisions at the same time making crazy life decisions and finding out that I guess for me, happiness is sort of the pursuit. And then once I've reached the plateau at that moment, it's like instant trying to figure out what's the next mountain to climb, which it's hard to live that way and exhausting, but I think I'm just always been that way from a very young age of just escaping my hometown, and it really hasn't stopped since not ever, because I'm in my 40s now. So it's, we're going on 30 years. I've been trying to escape my hometown and that feeling of trapped, and being the people I don't want to be like, that I grew up around. So there's a lot of therapy probably needed, but being in France and making this decision, I have realized that it's I think the one thing that people might not realize once they make a decision like this is that when you're living the dream life, like, oh, you moved to France and you're living in a little village and you eat fresh bread and cheese and have glass of wine, and like you're living the dream that people have in their head, the movie, the romantic movie of sitting at the little cafe and all that. Once you're here and you complain about it at all, people look down at you and like, why are you not more grateful? And it's like, just because I'm in the better setting than yours doesn't mean life can't still suck. And there still can be all the annoying things of being a human. And, you still have to go to doctor's appointments. You still have to raise a child. You still have to make a living. Like, life doesn't just instantly turn into like retirement mode and easy living. And I think your story is about like going to Australia and get to, running over a kangaroo bone and all. Like, those are the things that exactly aren't told online. And that's why people either don't want to hear it, or when they do hear it, they like shut it down because it messes with their dream of like, one day I'll be in this fantasy world where there's no problems. And I'm telling you, it doesn't exist. Not for me anyways.
Yeah, well, again, life happens for you and doesn't happen to you. And everything is an opportunity to learn more about yourself. And what I love about what you just said is like escaping. A lot of people ask me how I escaped my life growing up and how I was able to escape that kind of life. I didn't escape it. I outgrown it. Because if I would have escaped it, there was a period I felt like escaping it. And then I was always running and always escaping and always feeling like I need to get out of here. But once you outgrow it, it's like shedding skin. It's you grow out of something. And that's so peaceful. It does hurt still, because like I told you, I had that dream with the house and I was the last one to leave our house in the Netherlands. And I think I stood there crying for an hour because I could see and feel all the memories we made there, but also all the memories I had in my mind that would never come, because I needed to give up on the dream that was never mine. And I think that's one thing people don't realize when they say living the dream. They say to me, you're living the dream. Like they say to you, you're living the dream. And then I'll ask, but is it a dream for you? Is it really your dream? Most people don't even know what the dream is. So they are chasing something, they are chasing a dream that isn't theirs. Like my husband, he was chasing this successful career and providing for his family in all possible ways. We were miserable. And now he started living his dream. And yeah, we still have arguments sometimes. We're not always like this happy family and, and always smiling together. But we stay connected even through those arguments, and we are there because we are no longer chasing a dream that was never ours. We are now living our life and sitting together like, okay, what is our next step going to be? What are we doing? And not like in 5 years. No, what are we going to do in 2 months from now? What are we doing? And having a real conversation about it with all the ups and downs and all the pains and everything that comes along. Tuning in, not living from a fake dream, living from alignment. And that's such a difference.
I think a lot of people will resonate with that they're living someone else's dream, or what they've been told is their dream, or society's told them. So that's, yeah, well said. If someone wants to work with you or have a little talk with you, how should they find you?
LinkedIn is the easiest way, I think. I think LinkedIn is always the easiest way. So it's Miriam Curry. And just send me a DM. I DM a lot with people. I love connecting with people. And I'm always open for a conversation. I have always been open for conversations. Not even to sell. just no, I always love having conversations. My husband and my family knows it. They always lose me everywhere because I meet someone throwing away the trash and then I returning in an hour. So I honestly love having conversations with.
My mom was exactly the same. I would dread going to the grocery store because she would find her new best friend every time. I was like, all right, I guess I'm just going to go sit in the car. So I really relate with that. And I was annoyed by it for many years of my life, but now I kind of miss how she always was able to spark a conversation with a stranger, because so many people don't do it. So now I respect it on a level even more that she's no longer here on this earth. But thank you again for your time. This is great. And yes, please, everyone reach out.
Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you.